If you're on Bookstagram or BookTok, you will have seen people doing that kind of trend, which is the 7 deadly sins, but if they were books. And I wanted to bring it to YouTube. So I've got a list. These are all 4 and 5-star reads of mine. And they might not be what you think they are. So let's get into what I think the books would be if the 7 deadly sins were stories. We're going to be kicking off strong with Lust. Now, I've gone for Mate by Ali Hazelwood for this one. I remember reading this. I completely love this. I think it's divided opinion a little bit on the internet, but personally, it's feral yearning and it's I want you even though I shouldn't want you. And obviously it's a spicy book, so I feel like it's an obvious pick for the lust category. And there's 3 chapters. If you've read it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. My goodness, did I have a great time. The second sin that we're going for is pride. I really struggled to think of one that fits into this, but ultimately I've gone with Metal Slinger. Metal Slinger is a book that is full of characters who know exactly how dangerous they are and then fully lean into that part of themselves. It's full of power and it's full of legacy, reputation, and it's just... oh, I just devoured it so much. And I remember picking this up thinking that it was going to be a 3-star read and it ended up being 5, mostly because of the ending. But I am counting down the days to the sequel. Greed was another one that I really struggled with, but I've gone with The Everlasting by Alix Harrow. This is one of my more recent reads. I read it in December. And it's a story that focuses on power and immortality and time, but it's full of characters who just want more control, more life, more time. Every single main character in this wants more of something, and it's so heartbreaking and it's so beautifully written that I loved it, and I think it fits into this sin perfectly. Then we have Sloth, and I'm going at this at a bit of a different direction, because instead of laziness, I found it really hard to come up with a 4 or 5-star book that I read that kind of fits into that category. We're going more with the slow, and I've gone with Hamnet for this because Hamnet is essentially about grief that is so overpowering, it makes time stand still. Their lives are paused by loss, and you have this entire family who are just frozen in heartbreak. And the entire time that you're reading it, it's heavy and it's slow and it's quiet and it's beautiful. I highly recommend reading the book. I highly recommend the movie, which is incredible. But I just remember whilst I was reading this, I could barely breathe the entire time. And I just think it's so perfectly compatible with that sin. Next up, we have Wrath, and I've gone with Frankenstein. I actually read Frankenstein for the first time last year. And honestly, I wasn't surprised at how much I loved it because I've loved every adaptation I've ever seen of it. I love the story. I think it's so incredibly complex. So it just made sense that I was going to love the book. But this is a book that always comes back to, I wouldn't necessarily say it's about, but it always comes back to pure rage, especially from Frankenstein's monster. It's a rage at creation and abandonment, and he was made to be monstrous and then punished for it. It's full of anger of all kinds, and it's just so phenomenal. One of my favourite books. A bit more on the light-hearted side, we've got Envy, and I have gone with You and Me on Vacation. I think this is at the forefront of my mind because the adaptation's just come out and I've not long watched that. But it reminded me how much of a story this is about watching the person that you love build a life with somebody else and the regret you feel at maybe not saying something when you had the chance, and that kind of wanting something that you think you've missed out on. So even though I've probably picked this book because it is right there at the forefront of my mind, I actually think it's a perfect fit. And last but not least is Gluttony. And again, I really struggled with this one because to me, the Gluttony fits very similar into the Greed, but I'm going to go with The Night and the Moth because I feel like that story is just pure indulgence in the mood and the vibes of this story. It's got atmosphere for days on end and it's gothic tension with the mood and the aesthetics of this book. It's definitely the kind of story that you somehow savor and devour all at the same time. If you can think of a book for any of those sins, please do pop it in the comments. I'd be interested to know how other people see those. I feel like it's one that's definitely up for interpretation, depending on what you loved and what you didn't love. I think I wouldn't mind doing this again, but with books I hated. That would be interesting. Let me know if that's something you'd like to see. But just a reminder of who I am if you've made it this far. I'm Sorika, and I talk about books all the time across most social media platforms, including Instagram and TikTok. I have also recently started a Substack, so watch this space for that. And if you've read any of these books and loved them or hated them, do let me know. I'm always up for discussion. And I'll see you again next week for another video.